It's time once again to go racing.
It does not get any better than this.
The pressure is really on now.
Yes, it's pole position. Lights out and we're racing in PSGL.
The first lap has been absolute chaos.
What an overtake. Oh no!
I've never seen anything like it.
Side by side again. This will be settled right at the end.
Everybody, and welcome along to PSGL Season 30. This is round number 4 of the F2 tier on the PlayStation platform. Last week we were at the Principality of Monaco. This week we head to Paul Ricard in Le Castellet for the French Grand Prix, and it should be very, very exciting. It was quite a good race last season where it was changeable conditions, so I'm really looking forward to this one. My name is Jess, and joining me in the commentary box as usual, we got Erin White. Erin, how you doing?
Hello Jess, hello viewers, and yes, 3 winners in the first 3 races, and we're coming to one of the most entertaining tracks on the F1 games, so certainly looking forward to this one.
Yes, and we did see Baraka almost get the win last season as well in France, but he was very, very unlucky with the strategy, with how it was so crazy. I think it was dry to wet to dry, we remember, from that race. But we'll forget about France for the time being. We had some stewards results from last week. Originally, if you watched the stream last week in Monaco, I recommend you watch it after this is over. You originally saw Santry cross the line in first place, but he was involved in incidents, and both incidents resulted in time penalties. His first one was with Nicolo Soro, and he got a 15-second penalty added to his final time. And a Blazes incident, Santry got a 10-second penalty. So altogether, he got a 25-second time penalty, and that demoted him down to second place, which means our reserve driver, Jax, he got the win last week, his first win, which still makes it 3 winners out of 3 different races. And it's the first time, I think, that a full-timer has not won a race yet. But good job for Jax to take his first win. I think he was very delighted about that one.
He was, yeah, and we'd mentioned it to him on the stream last week that there's a chance that this reserved drive, he's back again tonight, could end up being more full-time as he goes along, and he might be able to actually still put his championship fight on. So it'll be interesting to see how he takes the momentum from that drive on to France.
Yes, and he's actually not doing too very bad in the championship. Currently sitting in a P6 as well. So if he shows he could do well tonight, and if we see drivers that constantly don't show up, then yes, maybe a full-time seat is on the cards, and he could be doing well in the championship. Baraka leads the championship, by the way. Valentin, despite his DNF from last week, he finishes in second in the standings so far. But his incident with Kazizel, it got investigated, but no further action. So that was a racing incident. Santry, even though he got second place last week, was in third in the standings. CC Brain got some good points last week. Got a podium actually last week. We spoke to him for the first time in a while. It was great to see him get a podium in 4th. Obviously, Jack, we talked about in 5th. Andrea was in 6th. Devin got some good points as well, but there's still a few people out of position, including our pole sitter Tom, who was very unlucky after his pit stops, got very, very, very unlucky with an incident, and he retired as well. I think it was a Ferrari driver that he got into tangles with as well, but maybe this could be the race for him where he gets the good luck, because he was definitely the favourite, because usually when you qualify on pole in tracks where you can't overtake, usually to win the race, but France is a track where you can overtake anyway, more than Monaco, so maybe he has a better chance anyway, no matter where he qualifies.
The chicanes this week are probably the main overtaking spots, and very good ones at that, so hopefully he can make up for the mistakes he had last time out, and if he has anywhere near the amount of pace he did back then, and hopefully he'll be able to get some more points. Only has 4 points on the board so far, I think. If I look right, actually no, sorry, 5. So yeah, if you can get a good result tonight, we know the pace is there. You don't just take pole on Monaco, what was it, his best ever lap round Monaco as well, and not have any pace anywhere else, so I'm sure he'll be up there.
Yeah, he finished runner-up in F3 last season as well, so he does definitely have something in him as well. But without further ado, people are about to start their flying laps around Le Castellet in France. First hosted a Formula 1 race back in 1971, but it has hosted the French Grand Prix in many other tracks since then, like Magny-Cours as well. I think Magny-Cours has hosted the French Grand Prix more times than any other track as well. But the driver's got to keep an eye on the pit lane, but we will talk about that in a minute. Elting is one of the few people to start his lap then. He's on the medium compounded tyres, and I have to say strategy will be important today in terms of which tyre will be the best. Some people may think soft to hard, some people may think soft to mediums could be good, but there may be a possible threat of rain as well. It is not common in real life, but it's very common on the F1 games. About 2/3 of the races I've commentated on this game around France, it has rained, so it seems to be bad luck at the moment for me. But Elting, he's heading towards the first DRS zone, heading towards turn 8. We'll see his sector 2 time at the moment compared to what everyone else has set so far, because a lot of people have passed the sector 2 split. Past the chicane and heading towards turn 9 and 10, keeping to the left-hand side, going into 8th gear, 180 miles per hour, 50.2 for him. We don't know how that compares to everybody else, but he's not purple right now, but he's on the medium compounded tyre. Only 3 drivers are on the mediums right now. That's himself, Jack, last week's race winner, and Louis. Everyone else has opted for the soft. Azzy is the first person to cross the line with a 1:29.3. Expect lap times tonight to be roughly about the 1:28 as Santre currently puts that on provisional pole position. Elting then heads towards the final few corners. A long run to the line. A lot of people get caught out, including myself around here as well. So you've got to be careful to not slow down at the different time. 1:30.6 for Elting, but there's still a lot of time to find, but still decent enough for him to get into the top 3 by now. But he's the slowest out of all the time so far.
Valentine has just gone fastest for Ferrari. Wasn't all that good in qualifying last time out, but has certainly put a marker on the board this time. Now I wonder where Baraka is. We saw one Mercedes cross the line. Was that him? No, it wasn't. He's in the final centre right now, because this was the man last season who looked so good to win the race before the decision to go onto wet tyres as the track was starting to dry. That's what did him in. And hopefully for his sake it'll stay dry tonight, and hopefully the pace will still be there. So let's see what's his banker like. It's P2, just over a 10th off the pace, so he certainly is there. Still our Champions leader by 6 points, because obviously him and Valentine really did not have a good run last time out. They shared the podium for the first 2 races, but were nowhere last time out. So we'll see if they stay 1-2 this time, because Izzle has gone to P3. Good stuff from him, because again he struggled in Monaco too. Kryptonite's just crossed the line. He's gone into 8th place, and we've got, I think, a few more. Oh, accidents. That is an accident for KJ. So that is KJ Elting, who's gone off and hit the tyre barrier, or more like well, that's actually just why has he done that? It's right on the exit of the very long right-hander at the start of the final section. He's just seemingly lost it on traction, I guess. But that's a really unfortunate one. And Alexis has been off the road as well, but has got it back into the pit lane without retiring. But yeah, Elting, we did 1 lap on mediums. Not obviously representative, because you want to be qualifying on the soft, which is, of course, the best tyre. And he's not going to have the chance to do that. And McLaren, it has to be said, they don't need that when they're still sat on 0 points in the championship.
They're like the Haas from last season, aren't they? Haas struggled to get on the board until we saw Jensen score the first points for the team as well. Elting, I was expecting more of him this season. He's one of the faster guys in the league, but again, he's just inconsistent. He needs to work on his inconsistency, but he's going to find it tough starting from as low as P13. If he's not careful, with everyone else set to lap time, he's going to be starting dead last on the grid as well. And if there's any weather conditions or anything like that, or if there's any places where you can't overtake, well, starting last here can be quite tricky. But at least you could go on the alternate strategy, which around here is quite OP for some drivers. So saw Yana Otmir in the PC tier come from, I think, near the middle of the grid to first on track. He did get a penalty for pit lane infringement, which the drivers have been told to keep an eye on as well as in the stewards briefing as well. So if they're naughty in the pits, then they will get, I believe it's a 5-second time penalty added to their final time. As I'm just trying to see who's on outlaps at the moment. It's Legend and Azzy, Azzy, a driver who hasn't had some good races. Either another driver who DNF'd last time out as well. One of the only 6 drivers in full time to not score any points as well. His teammate Andrea is doing quite well near the top of the championship, and the other Hats is down the bottom as well. But as he has got to come with a ridiculous recovery and miracle, he needs loads of miracles actually tonight in order to match his teammate in terms of performance. But he's been placed in this tier for a reason. Let's see if he can improve with a track which favours him, I think.
Yeah, we'll see how it all pans out. Obviously, we'll see, of course, as more runs get put in, because only we have had 13 runs, one of which was on mediums, so quite a few more to go on. But we'll see how it all pans out as these outlaps continue. And I don't think anyone's going up the mediums for the rest of the session. No one seems interested in those for any sort of alternate strategy, because the grid's just too close. We used to see it happen all the time, where people will go for the alternate strat, but it just is not something you see all that often anymore. As Legend, I think, will be the first one to start a lap. He's just coming through the last sector now. Hopefully he doesn't get caught up with any lap traffic. That might be more of an issue in the final runs in qualifying, but really, to get 3 runs done around here, you should be okay for that. So let's see. As the Williams takes a sort of wide entry into the final corner, gets a little bit more speed off the exit, and blasts off to start another lap. Invalidated the first one. I think he was actually first on track as well in the session and got it wrong just at the end of sector 1. A little bit hesitant turning into the first chicane. Seems a bit on edge there, and maybe didn't quite get that done as nice as he would have liked. And the second chicane as well. So really, you've got to send it into the first part and then probably keep it tight to the inside for the second part to open up the downhill turn to end the first sector. And he's kept it valid this time, which is good. This is a tricky traction zone as he heads onto the super long straight. And the DRS zone that comes there as well. No toe to take, which is something which people might be able to take advantage of, because even if you're not intentionally given a toe, the straight is so long, you might just be able to nick something. Another fully send-it chicane halfway through the Mistral straight. Probably the best overtaking zone on the track when we're looking in a racing context. And through the middle sector, Legend is purple according to the game. We will see how it all goes as he heads to the end. It all looks pretty decent so far. This is where we saw KJL Tink have his incident on the exit. When the traction zone gets pretty difficult, you can get caught on the curb on the outside and it can spit you off to the right hand side, but it hasn't for Legend. This is where the tyres really take a beat in this final sector as well, and you've got to think about that when it comes to your strategy. But as he comes into the last couple of corners now, little bit wide, he wouldn't have liked that, but he hits a late apex and hopefully he'll get it turned into the last corner. Again, misses the apex a little bit, there's time to be found there. But Legend, his first proper lap of the session, let's see where he goes. P7.
Times are quite close already between the top 11 at the moment. The top 10 will have to start on the tyres they qualified on as well. So almost in 11th position as well. And we just saw Pat's teammate cross the line for his first lap on the set of the soft tyres too. So most people are on their second run on the softs. I think there was a few people that were started on the mediums, including Elting, but Elting won't take any further part. But the other two, they get another crack on it, this time on the soft. Santry sets the benchmark then with a 128.3. Few more people up to the line. Boland, who's one of the reserves tonight, has been filling in for quite a while this season, just like Jack. Can he improve? Yes, he can, by 8/100ths per second to P8. Valentin improves once again to a 128.1. So we could see a swap between Valentin and Santry this session. We got an Alpine car, I believe, about to cross the line. But the other Alpine is invalidated. Ricky's invalidated, and I think his teammate, Dino, has gone into the pits. What about Pat then? He's up to the line, as is his second race this season. 128.6, only just under a tenth quicker than his previous best, puts him in P7. And then I think it may be CC Brain. No, it was not CC Brain. He's just about to start his lap, but Kryptonite is just going into the pit. So those are our laps so far, but no one is challenging the likes of Santry and Valentin at the moment. They seem to be switching places for P1 and P2.
Here comes Baraka. Not the best final sector for him though, it must be said, so there is time in that, but he has gone P3, so it's an improvement on his last effort. We've got the 2 Aston Martins coming up now. Because this one's invalidated, unfortunately, so he might actually go for a second run, so we'll keep our eyes on him, because he's got his ERS up and looks like he's going again. But his teammate, Tom, he's up by over a tenth of a second. This could put him onto the front row. Not sure it'll challenge Valentin, and this is a really good sector, which it isn't, but it is, like I say, on the front row, where he was at the start of the session as well. And so Tom looking good so far there. Others are just sort of heading to the pits now or on in lap, so I think the only sort of proper lap going on right now is Kazizzle.
Yeah, that is Tom's teammate, of course. So Aston Martin looking to close up to the likes of Mercedes and the guys who are on top of the constructors. Mercedes are leading by quite a bit, actually. They got, obviously, maximum points in Portugal and the second maximum point in Silverstone, but only a few points with the Blaze and Baraka in Monaco. So Aston Martin currently sitting in 6th. Got a long work to do in order to get Mercedes, but the championship and the constructors is so closer than ever that anything can happen. You never know, Mercedes could have bad races again, and teams like Red Bull and Ferrari and Alfa Romeo could catch up as well. Alfa Romeo actually did not have a bad race in terms of Santry, but for Louis, he didn't score any points. The 2 Red Bull scored points as well, scored the most points out of anyone last week. But Kazizzle, Tom's teammate, a driver who I have to say was one of the unluckiest last week. Can he return to his good form this week? Well, it's a 128.4. Only a tenth shy of Baraka and Santry as well, but Valentine is just still the class of the field right now, but everybody else separated by just under 1-2 tenths or even 3 tenths of a second down to P12. Just one small error will put you outside the top 10.
Yeah, it really is very close. We've still got a few laps going on out of sequence, by the way. We've got Cohen, who's just started one, Louis, who's just starting one. And I think they're the only ones, because CC Brain has backed off on his. Alexis actually has also on one, in fact, in the middle sector. So we'll see how this one's going as he heads up. Obviously hasn't got a time on the board, so he's sitting at P20 at the minute. So this time really does need to get on the board. No time to mess about anymore, because you need to have some sort of reference to go off of for your final lap. I find it's always better to go into the final lap with a delta to follow, because you can see straight away the instant improvement, and for me it helps. But Alexis, you'll certainly be looking forward to seeing this delta through the final sector, because that was a huge slide, and in fact he's not even going to go for it, he's going to go straight for the pit lane. So he's not happy with how that last sector went. A lot of people sliding about there. The tyres overheat a lot as Tom retires in the session in the pits, so perhaps he's happy enough with where he is. But yeah, Cohen, only 3 minutes to go on the clock. Will he finish his lap? That's very slippery and sliding. In fact, he's almost done what his teammate did. He just about missed the wall, and that will have to be into the pit, won't it? Louis, again, not long on the clock. He's really got to make a decision. Does he finish his lap, or will he box it because he's invalidated it? Okay, so he will pit then, surely. And he does, and he's going to have to be pretty damn quick getting back out. And you can see he's given no heed there to the speed limit. Luckily, it doesn't matter in qualifying. But yeah, these people are leaving it late. Dino's in the middle of a lap. Again, this will pretty much be it for him. Unfortunately, we can't see this timer all the time because they keep putting yellow flags out. But it is 2 minutes and 15 seconds to go, so really, it's do or die now for the Alpine driver, who's currently sitting 19th at the minute. One of 3 drivers not to set a representative time who are still actually in the session. And we'll see how it goes. There's going to be no traffic to worry about, as a lot more people are starting to come out of the pits. I think Legend was one of the first ones out there. He is also on a lap, so we will keep up with him as he heads through. But let's see Dino first, as he heads through the last 2 corners, keeps it tight to the inside. A lot better than what we were seeing from a few others through there, so we'll see if he can just get it tidy across the line. He doesn't quite have the ERS to go for a second run, so this really is it. And where is he going to end up? P6. We'll see how long he can hold on to that.
Yes, we're now riding on board with Legend, who has unfortunately invalidated his run, so he pretty much only has one more chance. I think that's his second run that he's invalidated too, so he's going to have to be on the U set to the sauce most likely, because he's not going to have any time to go into the pits. Louis is in the pits now, but his teammate Santry will go out for one final one. He has invalidated, but luckily it was his out lap. Anyway, we've got a Mercedes out there. That is Baraka. He's about to start his lap. Pretty much everybody is going to be going out on one final push laps on low fuel modes to see if they can beat Valentine's 128.1. 128, I have to say. It's a pretty decent lap time for Valentine on PlayStation, I have to say. So it's going to be pretty hard to beat. Cohen, though, just saying they possibly can be beaten by 1/10 slower, but still, that puts him into P2. Kryptonite's just about to start his lap. And is going to the end of qualifying and Cohen is backed off, so he must be very, very happy with his lap. Andrea, 1:28.2, so times are going thick and fast. Valentine can be beat there. Valentine has one more go to do it to solidify his pole position.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see how this one comes to an end. Well, I'm guessing Tom just didn't have the time to come back out, because I'm wondering now if he's going to be sitting there sort of with that sinking feeling, wondering if he's going to fall down the pack, because he's not going to be out there to respond to anything that these guys are doing. Baraka, by the way, is invalidated his time, and that is it. So he's not going to get a time on the board, and for one of the main title contenders, the championship leader, he has work to do in the race. His teammate, Bolin, is up at the moment in the middle sector. Needs a couple of hundreds, really, in the last sector to get himself into the top 10. Let's see if he can do so. He's actually backed off. He fancies the alternate strategy. That seems a very deliberate call from where I'm sitting to back it right off. Louis is crossing the line. He's not done anything now, though, has he? So he is finished. And who else is going through? We've got Legend does get a second time, and he's on to 7th place. Devon, 8th place. We're going to see if Santry can do anything. No, he stays in 5th place. And as I said, Baraka, invalid, would have improved onto the front row, but he isn't able to do so, which means that we're watching Valentine right now trying to extend his pole position. I'm not too sure how many people can beat him, if anybody, but let's see how he does. Will he get it into the 1:27s? Will he extend it by just enough? He doesn't quite, but I'm not sure there's anybody out there. Is there anyone? Kazizel's backed off. He was up, but he has backed off because he went invalid. One more time from CC Brain, only puts him up to 15th. Azzy is slow as well, and Alexis has only gone 17th. And that means that Valentine, he's back on pole position.
Not his first pole. I believe he got his first pole earlier on in the season. So
Portugal, wasn't it?
I think it was Portugal at the beginning of the season. So Valentine, continuing where he started here at PSGL season 30. He's only had one bad luck race this season, and that was Monaco. Apart from that, his races have been pretty much spot on in terms of the strategy. There was one race in Silverstone where he actually won the race in Silverstone. He got pole in Portugal, didn't win the race, he got third, but he won the race in Silverstone, whereas Baraka got pole in Silverstone and only got second. So we're going to see an epic title fight between these two. Maybe the likes of Santry could be back in there as well, but don't count out this guy Valentine, who is pretty much so close to Baraka in terms of points. I believe there's a 6-point gap between the two, so we should see what happens. So Valentine, a stellar lap. He was still in the 1:28.1s on his final lap, even if he didn't improve, so it shows that he is consistent, which could reward him today. Andrea in second, Cohen in third, Tom is in fourth, so we've got a Shizou 3-4 there in the second row, Santry in fifth, Baraka 6th, Legend in 7th, Devon in 8th, Kazizel 9th, and Dino round up your top 10. They'll be starting on the soft tyres. And then we got Jax, Pat Schneider, Kryptonite, Bolan, CC Brain, Ricky, Alexis, Azzy, Louis, and Elting. Elting did not set a representative. Well, he did set a representative lap time, but he binned it just before turn 11. And his teammate Cohen almost did that as well. And luckily, he avoided that. So we're about to get in to the race then. It's going to be tough in terms of strategy, but the guys outside the top 10, they have a brilliant chance on trying to do the alternate strategy today, but they have got to have good pace in order to do it.
Oh, look at that though. It's dull conditions for the race. I wonder if they'll be looking at... Maybe this is why we saw some people looking to be outside the top 10 because of rain, perhaps. But yeah, we'll see. It was a big challenge here last season, rain. It's definitely dry for now, and so we'll see what this does for strategy. But yeah, regardless of whether it rains or not, this track is notorious for overheating the tyres. And that'll be possibly the bigger factor here in the starting phases of the race than tyre wear. Because you might want to get off overheating tyres, which are perfectly okay on percentages. So that'll be worth looking at as well. But yeah, we'll see what happens here. I'm looking forward to seeing these starting tyres.
Yeah, me too as well. And I think there's one other corner that I think the drivers have to keep an eye on as well. Turn 10, the high-speed right-hander. If the car is unbalanced in terms of setup, or if the tyres get a bit worn towards the end of the race, there's going to be some huge understeer. And like you said, much warmer tyres as well. And you've got to make sure that you don't overheat. As we're looking at the tyres then, we've got hard compounded tyres. Let me just get my screen up so you guys can see. But we've got Jax, Pat, Kryptonite, Bolan, CC Brain, Ricky, Azzy, Louis, all on hards, Alexis on mediums, Elting on softs. Now, surely that means with them on the hard tyres, do you think we're going to have a wet end of this Grand Prix?
Well, I tend to agree with that because you don't see that too often where that many start on the hards. Again, we know what the tyre strategy is like, but even Elting starting on softs, perhaps he wants to do 2 soft runs, you know? Maybe the guys at the front will do 2 soft runs and go for it. So what's going to happen with the weather? Because honestly, it is so unpredictable, this track. We saw Baraka last season, the tyre choice was critical. And it could be yet again. This is fascinating.
This is very, very exciting. We know how crazy it was last season with the weather. I do remember a season before, season 28, we had some wet weather running at some point, I believe, in F2, or it must have been another tier that I commentated on. I don't know, but it seems to be a curse in F2 around France, but there hasn't been many rain-affected races this season. All of them pretty much have been dry. Portugal, nice and sunny. We went to Britain, nice and sunny. Monaco, nice and sunny. And here we go to France, overcast. So it is the first change of the weather that we have seen, even though it's not raining yet, but it's still quite overcast as well. Those hard tyres are going to take so long to warm up, so they've got to use the formation lap to his full potential as well. Elting on the softs, well, he may think the rain could come earlier, but you never know with approximate weather. The rain may not come at all. We don't know. That's how unpredictable these weather conditions could be, but we are about to start the French Grand Prix. 27 laps await us. No one who started on pole this season has won a race. It's been 3 poles, and no one has won the race from pole. So, can Valentine change that tonight, or will we see a different winner?
Well, we'll find out. So many variables in this race, and we can see a lot happen at turn 1 because who's going to take the risk on the inside, even trying to go right around the outside into 2 as well to try and cut the inside there. There's so many different ways to get through this first section. The thing for Valentine is that he's on the inside of the track, and that could be a really tricky place to be as the 5 lights come on. It's Valentine from Andrea, Ferrari from Haas, Cohen from third has jumped the start. Is he going to try and get himself into the lead to try and build some sort of gap, or is he just going to back it off? He's backed it off. Valentine will then lead into turn 1 because Andrea's not had the best start. Few going side by side. I think there was a tap from Tom onto Santry, and I think Cohen now has gone off the road completely to just sort of get out of everyone's way. So it's a shame the game gives him a drive through because he's quite clearly trying to give the advantage he's gained back, but he's pretty much out of the running unless we get some sort of a safety car later on. Elsewhere, there's a bit of fighting in the midfield. We've got Legend and Devon fighting over 6th position. They're keeping it all on the road so far. The Mercedes Baraka went off for a moment, and it looks like, apart from the jump start, there's been no real issues so far. And it's Valentine from Andrea and Santry, your top 3.
Yes, pretty much the top 3 remain unchanged, but we could see a change for P6. Legend almost tried to get through on the inside into turn 8 down in the chicane, but couldn't quite do it at the moment, so he's forced to stay behind. I have to say, Jax has had a brilliant start. Same with Pat's as well. Jack up to 10th position, Pat up to 11th. Elting, he started last because he didn't set a good lap and he crashed out. He's all the way up into 12th position, so starting on the softs for him is really good, but he's got to pass both Pat and Jax for the soft strategy to be effective and potentially be on the same strategy as everybody else. But Elting's going to be on the fresher tyres. Look at this, Elting is already wanting to make moves straight away. Here comes another one for the McLaren driver. He's making up for lost time, up to 11th place in the penultimate corner. And he's only got one hard runner to get past. We've got Cohen who's going into the pit. I believe he will serve his drive-through, which will move more people up the field as well. Elting a little bit further back to get Jack this time around, but maybe in a sector or two's time he could possibly challenge for P10 as Cohen has decided to call it a day. And Owen, I'm not really that surprised.
Yeah, it's a shame to see the race end that way, but I guess though he could have got a safety car. You know, he could have got a safety car to help him out, but he didn't want to go for that option. But he's out, so I guess that doesn't really matter now, does it? But here comes Elting trying to get himself into the points, making use of the softs to get by all these hard runners. He should really be getting by Jax at the end of the straight. He should be able to outbrake him because he'll have the extra grip of the tyres, and that should be an easy one to get through. The sun is coming out, Jess.
Yeah, so the rain that we were threat to have had for this race is possibly gone. So maybe soft to mediums. Oh, Baraka's going for a move. Contact between Baraka and Tom there, heading towards turn 11, and that was very, very tight. That could have almost been a very severe incident, but, well, one of them had to go for it, but it was too risky at some point, and it's so hard to overtake there as well. But these guys are definitely want to prove each other wrong, but Baraka stays in P4. I wonder if that'll be investigated. I don't think so, because it was probably minor contact and no damage as well, but Tom must be absolutely furious, and he's now on a charge and even more motivated than ever to get past him.
Baraka then sets the fastest lap of the race while making that move. He is looking for vengeance here in France. DRS now enabled, and we'll get it on the run down towards turn 8, and we'll get it, of course, down towards turn 1 as well. The two sort of best overtaking spots, I'd imagine. With the chicanes, you can do plenty of side-by-side as well, so I'm hoping these guys will give us something worth watching. But let's see, here comes Andrea. He's got 60% of the ERS left, a lot less than Valentine actually. But is he going to go for the move? I think he might actually, so he's going to go straight for it. And Valentine, with all this extra ERS, I suppose he's happy to let it happen, is he? No, he's fighting this one. He's holding on to the lead of the French Grand Prix, and side by side at turn 9 and towards turn 10. They're going to have a drag race, perhaps even with Santry as well. You're just going to sit back and let this happen. Will he try and get an opportunity? Because Andrea's not quite ahead yet. And I think he's just going to slot back in to make sure Santry cannot mug him on the inside. Oh, but he hits him anyway, Santry. And luckily doesn't send the Haas spearing into the Ferrari, because that was perilously close. But Andrea proving that perhaps he is going to go for this, and Valentine certainly showing he's okay to fight for it.
I have to say, brilliant racing from the pair of them as well, but we got the Alfa Romeo right behind, looking to pounce if any of those two make a mistake, which is quite common around here, as we saw closer contact with Baraka and Tom as well. So they're all in this DRS train, obviously apart from Louis and Ricky, that they're on their own as well. So anyone could fight for the lead, but Andrea could get the move into turn 1, but backs out at the last second. But that could have been a very good move, even made it stick. But Valentine is already trying to pull away as well. Maybe Andrea knows that Santry would probably get the move done anyway if he does go for the move as well, which could cause a concertina effect right now as well. Next DRS zone coming up now as well. Andrea's next chance could be right now, but probably the closest for any sort of attack will be Tom. We'll keep a fight on the lead first. Andrea's got 45% ERS. He's going to go for it this time. Could this be the move he's looking for? It looked a bit easier than the last lap. This time he's got the lead, but is Valentine going to attack on it this time? He does not. Tom doesn't go for the move on Baraka. And it's Andrea who is your race leader, a driver who's looking very, very good in the championship. I don't think he hasn't had a win so far, but he's been consistently up there in the top 5 of pretty much most of the races so far. Here comes Santry or the back of Valentine, so I wonder if Valentine is struggling on those tyres. Those tyres don't seem to last long around France, so you better get off those softs quite quickly. Santry almost had a bit of a tank supper there through turn 13 there, but he hasn't lost that much time. But Baraka probably saw that, and he's looking to pounce once again.
That Valentine's absolutely fine. He's got this absolutely under control. He's got more than enough pace at the minute. He's just letting Andrea waste this ERS because he's got more than double. He could easily have overtaken multiple times in that third sector. He's got this in perfect control for now. It's just making sure that when the fighting does happen, he doesn't accidentally get himself called out, because if he wants to make the move here on this back straight, he can easily do so. But it's just about making sure he doesn't cause anything too dramatic to happen, because you're seeing a few fights are happening in his midfield. Legend getting through on Kazizel, and now Dino trying to do the same thing. And Santry, is Santry going? Valentine does it, because Valentine's now closing up and going for it once again. Is Santry going to make it 2 for 1? No, he's not. So Valentine gets back through, and Drea just has to sit back and wait. Will he try and fight back? He certainly seems more eager to fight. But let's see, up the hill, he's going to have a slipstream, of course, but he's not got much ERS left to use, which is the problem. He can close up all he wants here, but then he's going to have to take the pain for that at some point. As Santry, again, just sort of sits there and waits. He is going to have a chance to overtake it soon, because Andrea will eventually lose some power. And, well, Zizzle, he's now been dropped to the back of this train of soft runners. So as you can see that he's been struggling a little bit on this lap, getting done by Legend and Elting and Dino all on the same lap.
Yes, and I think Valentine just goes to show that he's been playing the strategy game quite perfectly, as the timing sheet is going a little bit crazy at the moment. As Legend and Dino, they're in the pits as well, and Kazizzle's in as well. They're going in very, very early, something that you probably would expect around France at the best of times due to the undercut. The softs could only last 8 laps, so pitting a few laps early could make a difference as well. Again, they're going on the hard tyres. No one is thinking about the mediums. Kazizzle is going on the mediums though, so that could be interesting. Could it be on for a 2-stop? Sometimes a 2-stop may be faster, but we don't know. This could be good. Battle for the lead. Freeway battle for the lead, actually. We will see. Yeah. Santry, I think, is looking the best out of all of them. Valentine just breezes, well, lets Andrea through, but Santry, he just can't get past Andrea there. This is tactical play from Valentine. He's got 78% ERS. Santry's got 82. Andrea's on 22%. So
yeah, but look at Baraka. He's all over this now. Look,
I know.
He's really quick. So is Valentine going to have to try and find a way past Santry? Because can Baraka possibly take advantage of this? Because if he's going to try and disrupt Valentine's strategy, getting past him obviously would help quite a lot with that. But I think Valentine, what happened was he had a big slide on the way out of 6 and 7. And that might not have helped his run. That's why Santry was all over it. But I tell you what, Valentine really went straight into the back of him when he backed off the Alfa Romeo driver. As we see the race leader into the pits along with Valentine. Baraka will stay out, as will Tom. Obviously, Santry stays out. Devin, Eltink. But the two that pitted, let's see what they're going to go on to, because we've seen 2 go on to the hards. We've seen 1 go on to mediums. This is mediums for both of them? No, it's hards for the Haas of Andrea and then mediums for Valentine. So that's, again, a bit of a split. As Eltink, oh dear. Well, he's left the session, but that doesn't mean he's crashed. In fact, he hasn't got any damage or anything, so I'm not too sure what's happened. He's spun off, but I wonder if he's had some connection issues. As Kazizzle in the pits,
yeah, in the pit lane. Yeah, in the pit lane. So no safety car.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm wondering what's happened there, but well, that's 2 races we've just seen effectively come to an end there. And again, that would be McLaren's pointless season possibly continuing as a result. As I see Pat and Jax going for it. Pat getting ahead in the AlphaTauri and pulling away. He's now the highest of the hard compound runners, but can Jax try and fight him back out of the hill? He's not got much ERS to fight with, but mind you, both of them are a little bit low. The top 4 have also just stayed nice and clean, not fighting too much. Will Jax go for this again? He's definitely closing up by enough to maybe try. And he's trying to sort of get the best line through 11, but not going to do anything stupid, I'd imagine. He does know he has Bolin, Kryptonite, and Alexis, who's on the mediums, but not making much progress on these hard guys. So I'm sure it probably could be going a little bit better as far as he's concerned. Are we going to see the rest of these guys pit on the sauce? No, we're not, because Santry has stayed out and Baraka has stayed out. So we're seeing Devin and Tom into the pits. And that leaves only 2 out there on sauce in that leading battle. And of course, KJ, but we don't know if he's going to be coming back or not. Hard compound tyres for Tom. And hard compound tyres for Devin. So Valentine, thanks to Kazizzle's issues, is now, well, the only one on mediums in this strategy. So this will be very interesting to see how it plays out for him.
Yes, it does. We saw Valentine and Andrea pit a lap later than Legend and Dino, so the undercut did not work for Dino and Legend at the moment, but we're going to see how that has affected things. Valentine's still ahead of the one that's just pitted, so...
look at this, it has worked for Legend and Dino, because they're not only ahead of Tom, but they're right on the back of Andreas. This is working for them very nicely.
Yeah, the undercut didn't work for when they were trying to get in front of Valentine and Andrea, but for Tom and Devin, it did not work, and Legend and Dino got the undercut perfectly, so that was brilliant. Baraka could go for the move, actually. He's so close into turn 10. No margin for error too. Baraka has got 15% ERS. Santry has gone a bit wide there as well. They're trying to leave as much space as they possibly can here to get the move. Heading towards turn 12 now. You got to be careful not to overheat your tyres as well. I don't know why these 2 are not going into the pits, but they probably will have to think about it now because they get held up by the battles. There we go. Both Santry and Baraka come into that. Will put Pat into the lead of the race, and they hit each other. Oh my god, how was that not a penalty? I don't know, but Pat is now your race leader, but he started on the hards, and Jack will be P2. Baraka, what does he go on to? Mediums, and he has to change his front wing. And Santry, what does he go on to? I think he'll go on to the mediums. Yeah, he also goes on to the mediums then. So it's not just Valentine who's on the mediums anymore. It's Santry and Baraka as well. So Baraka and Santry following Valentine's lead, it looks like.
Yeah, they're both going to be nowhere in terms of where they were before anyway, because look at Santry's just going to have to try and barge his way into the middle of the pack now, where he was fighting at the front of it, and obviously Baraka now is right at the back of it, so he's going to have to make 6 seconds up. But if they start fighting these guys like they were earlier, perhaps there's a chance of that. But Valentine, you would expect him to pull away, and you definitely expect him to be trying to pull away to over a second, because for his strategy to work, I suppose he needs to be under no pressure. As we see some of the hard runners fighting, I think that was Azzy actually getting past Alexis, and now you're seeing CC Brain trying to go as well, and he's going to make that one stick as well up the hill as Santry gets himself past Dino too. So there is movement happening out there. As the outside line, Dino, he might be able to fight it back, but against medium runners, I suppose maybe not the best chance. But yeah, this will be fascinating to see how it all works. Because based on what we're seeing with Alexis, mediums could potentially fall off quicker than you'd expect.
Yeah, the mediums, according to the data, the tyre data, only last 14 laps, as we saw in the Alpine, almost trying to go around the outside of Santry there into turn 11. Tom is fighting as well. Look at the move he just pulled off there, off Dino. That is incredible through the exit of 11, heading towards turn 12 now, and he keeps that move up into P13 as well. So maybe Santry may have made the wrong decision with the mediums, or maybe he's taking a long time to heat the tyres and warm them up potentially, because Tom has been on those tyres a little bit longer and he's had a chance to warm them up. So that was probably why he got the move done on Dino as well, because he was on the fresher tyres. Valentine set the fastest lap of the race so far. He's got some clear air in front of him as well, but he's got chasing Andrea and Legend behind him as well, and also Santry as well, which Santry, I think, he's probably a bit worried that there's 2 hard front runners in front of him as well, because the more he gets stuck behind a DRS train around France, you do know the tyres will overheat quite quickly and the tyre wear will just go through the roof. So Valentine's tyres will be a lot better as Alexis gets past CC Brain up into P6 of this race. Not on net P6 though, because they haven't pitted. Santry gets past Legend, or Willie. Will Legend defend there on the inside? Oh, that was almost a slide from Santry, but he saved that. Stays in a net P3 of this race now, but Legend would have been a huge threat right now, but luckily he's staying behind. Legend, though, will have the more durable tyre towards the end, so watch out for him towards the end of the race. Same with Tom, Dino, and Devon as well, who are also on the means. Baraka, he's on the means as well. He's 5.7 seconds behind Devon, though, so he's got a lot of work to catch up on, though.
The problem that Andrea and Legend had there is that they've not got much ERS. Santry should be able to get by Andrea relatively easily. 1, because of the tyre advantage. 2, because of the ERS advantage. 3, because he's got DRS, so it shouldn't be too difficult. I'm not sure if he'll be able to do it into turn 1, but if he recognises that Andrea he's not gonna have anything in terms of straight line speed, perhaps he would try and go for it, but he's gonna wait for another DRS zone, hoping that he doesn't lose too much time, because that will help build the train a little bit. He wants to be breaking away from it, but this should be it, really, onto the Mistral straight through, boom. And yeah, if there is no weather coming, I'm going to take it that their strategy is going to end up being pit for sauce at the end and try and get through all these hard runners. So that could be what we see happening. As we see a freeway fight for the on-track lead. We've got Bolin and Jax going for it, nearly making contact. There too is he going for Pat Schneider at the minute, because Pat's just sort of been sitting at ahead of us as Santry gets past Andrea with no troubles, which is good to see for his race. We'll see if he can get himself onto Valentine. But yeah, that freeway fight at the front, they're slowing each other down, but I suppose they'll also be with those medium runners on sauce at the end, if that's what the idea is going to be. I'm sure someone on those hard mediums will try it, because against hards, fresh sauce will be easy. So I wonder if that's what they're going to do.
Yes, I wonder if they're going to do that, because hards could last 18 laps, and that will mean the softs, give or take, could get to the end, but it will be a bit of a push. Alexis comes in then on a set of medium tyres, so he thinks that starting on the mediums and what is not enough for him to go onto the soft tyres. I I do believe that the only option will be the hards. Otherwise, why would he go on the soft? Yes, it is the hard tyres for Alexis, so that will definitely get to the end of this race, but there could be a threat of a safety car. Tom still over the back of Legend, binding his time, 56% ERS, Legend 19%, so surely Tom has the upper hand on getting the move done on the Williams driver. Of course, Tom did not score any points last week after his DNF, looking to find his form because he had decent points in some of the races, but there has been some races where he's fallen by the wayside a little bit. I think the only points he scored was in Britain, where he actually had some good battles. Actually, it was nice to watch. I think it was with Elting. And Tom, Legend's got the DRS. I think Tom will have the DRS as well. I don't think they're going to get the move. No, they're not. So they stay in the positions as they are at the moment. But it's going to heat up quite a lot. But we've got a on-track battle for the lead here, starting to come thick and fast with one of the AlphaTauris and one of the Mercedes driver. The AlphaTauri was actually launched for the F1 2022 car, and it actually looks quite nice with the spec. Anyway, I kind of like it. A few people may disagree, but I kind of like it. Yeah, the AlphaTauri livery always looks quite nice, but this is the last time we get to see it in a while this season. Well, it is this season as well, because next season will be at an F1 2022, I believe. But Boland stays ahead at the moment, but the train is still growing. Legend gets past Dino now. Or does he actually? Dino fights back. Legend goes off the track. So Legend was showing a bit of complacency there, and he got a 3-second time penalty for it.
It's going to affect him quite a lot as we see a move for the lead. That is Santry making his intentions known. But that, again, could be strategy from Valentine. He'll not get the DRS down the back straight, of course. And we're calling this fight for the lead. I know the actual fight for the lead was very good in the last lap. As we said, Bowley made a really nice move on Pat Schneider. But we will see possibly both fights again, as we do see Boland being re-overtaken. Will Jax get involved? Like I said, this freeway fight's been fantastic. But will we also see Valentine come back, or is this his chance to now save some ERS? Because Santry's had to use a lot to get back into this. It's Jax on the inside, but Boland also flying up the hill, trying once again into 10 to try and make a move into 11. This is what they did in the last lap, and it didn't quite work out then for any moves because it had all been done on a misjudged straight, just like this time. So Pat Schneider back into the lead of the race, and then we'll see the net lead of the race. That one is just as close, but yeah, it's those two fighting on their own really, Santry and Valentine, and then these guys on the hards, they're just having some good fun because I wouldn't say it's going to be too good for their pace, but I wouldn't mind too much. But Pat Snyder does pit. That'll be from mediums, I guess, because they've not even done half the race on the hards, so I'll be very surprised if they went and put softs on, and it is the mediums, and that'll let Jax and Bowden fight away on their own for a bit more.
Yes, indeed. We're pretty much halfway through this race now as well, and we saw Valentine and Santry close out a lap ago, and it was just insane to watch as well on the medium tyres, but their mediums are going to die pretty fast as well, so they don't want to be pushing too much now, but you don't want to let Andrea catch up to you soon as well, so it's finding the perfect balance right now too. So we're seeing more people come into the pits. Ricky is on the medium compounder tyres, we'll get to the end. Pat on the mediums too, so they're not confident on the soft, so I wonder if Bolan and Jax will be thinking of the same thing. Battle of the lead on track will get quite interesting with Jax now, and we'll see if he wants to do the undercut or would he want to go and pit for the soft, or maybe he would want to pray for a late safety car, which could change things. Valentine again not quite close enough to Santry to get the move on him for the net race lead of this Grand Prix. Andrea's dropped a little bit back to these two drivers, so there's two drivers running on their own at the moment, but Andrea's got Tom, Dino, Devon and Legend catching up as well. But Baraka, he's on a world of his own at the moment, not having the best of races so far, and he could have Pat catching up for all we know. That's how Baraka is kind of struggling. Baraka didn't do too bad in the rain, but in the dry he's absolutely struggling a little bit more than ever. He's gonna hope for a safety car or him to go on the sauce in order to stand a chance of fighting the likes of Valentine and Santry for this win. But anything can happen in PSGL, and it usually does.
So to put this into perspective with the way the strategies are looking at the moment, you've got obviously Santry and Valentine, they are doing their own thing, but there's a potential that the tires might go off and they might end up pitting at the end. So we'll look as well at Andrea's thing. and he's got 8 seconds on Pat Schneider. These other hard runners at the front appear to be pushing on to possibly go for sauce later on. 8 seconds, possibly 10. We'll maybe give it a couple more seconds. That would be too hard to catch for these guys, and that might be an incentive for Valentine and Santry to actually stay out, because these hard runners, well, they're ahead, and if they're going to pit again, well, that's 5 people in front of these two that are going to pit, so they might even try and push it to the end as the fight for P3 on track continues, and Tom passes Andrea. And yeah, these guys, they will end up under pressure from a lot of people, because I think Pat Schneider will see if he can get some pace, but he can see that fight. But the guys on softs, they will have only about 10 seconds to make, and that's not too difficult with the way these turns are. A lot of high load corners, which fresher tyres will blitz compared to old hards. So we'll see sort of what happens there as we see one car getting past Andrea and swiftly a second one. But will Andrea be able to fight him back? Dino on his outside, wheel binding, sliding, and as he entered the pit lane, Dino does cop a penalty for going wide off the track. So didn't quite work out for him. Will Andrea be able to come back? He can certainly slingshot the inside of the final corner, but decides not to. And we'll see as a yellow flag comes out in sector 3. What's this for? Legend is just ghosted. He's I hope he's not disconnected or something, but he's back now. As he's on to medium, so he's not going to do anything on the soft. The other 4 that are still out on hards at the moment are sort of... Yeah, we'll see what they do. It's hard to predict what they're going to do. It's hard to predict what anyone's going to do. It's been the most unusual sort of strategy of the season this so far. And so it'll be difficult to predict. But the amount of cars that aren't going on the soft at the minute is surprising me. As we see the 2 Red Bulls fighting. And obviously CC Brain just swapping places. There shouldn't be any sort of argy-bargy between those two, because the last thing the Red Bulls need, if they're on a decent strategy, is to go and stick it in the weeds.
Yes, and to be honest, we've always had simple strategies in the likes of Silverstone and Portugal, where it's been one stop. Silverstone was easy soft to medium or medium to soft without the safety cars. But there's not even rain, and we don't even know what will be the best option here. If I was them, maybe the hards will probably be better, because the hards, they would get to the end anyway. The medium's a bit of a push, but if you're in battles all the time and you're on the mediums, you're in a bit of trouble. So Pat could still make it to the end on those medium tyres, say with Baraka too, but we just don't know what's going to happen right now as well. Jack's 5 tenths clear, well, behind Bolin at the moment. He's clear of CC Brain by 3.2 seconds at the moment too. And I'm almost certain the top 4 will be going for the soft. I know the 2 Red Bulls will be going for the softs as well. CC Brain and Kryptonite will probably think that those tyres are the best as well. CC Brain was in relatively clean air for most of the race too, so he's probably saving his tyres. So he could get the soft to the end, but he will have to pit around lap 19-20 to do that. And his tyres must be dead, but he's usually good on tyre management. He's usually the tyre management king when he races in F2 anyway. So there's a method to his madness, and yeah, I could definitely see the 2 Red Bulls going on soft. Not sure about Bowen and Jax, but we will have to wait and see. Who knows? We could get a late safety car. We could get no safety cars. I'm surprised we haven't seen any safety car yet, but they are keeping it cool as Valentine gets past Santry into turn 8. And he is in the lead there. No challenge from Santry though, but Santry could get him back into turn 9 and 10, which he does not. He's got low ERS though, so that's probably why he wasn't fighting as much, and that is why Valentine is performing so well. He's got 70% ERS, but Santry almost got in there. He closed the door, but Valentine just running at all the right places right now. This is good battling between the 2 of them as well. Let's hope both of them don't make contact like they did in the pit earlier on as well. But Valentine now inherits the net race lead once again, but on 2 lap older tyres compared to Santry.
So they've made 5 seconds nearly on the likes of Tom, Dino, Andrea, Devon, and Baraka and Schneider are catching this. They are Schneider's only 6 seconds off now. So he's not looking too bad on the pace. Give it sort of 3 or 4 more laps, I reckon they'll probably be on this DRS trail, because they're going to be fighting at some point, because they're way too close to not. And that is retirement in the pits for Alexis, unfortunately. So he is out for Ferrari. So all hopes are pinned on Valentine. And he is, again, looking decent. The ERS levels are all fine. I think when he needs to use it, he can, which is not something you can say for many other drivers out there at the minute. and that is possibly the ace up his sleeve right now. I do wonder if there'll be someone telling Santry, because, you know, some of the drivers do have their own race directors to be saying about other driver situations. I'm sure Santry must be aware in some way, shape or form about how much better the ERS situation is for Valentine, which is why you'd expect, honestly, him to sit back for a little bit and try and regain some ERS so that he's got equal amounts to fight with. But we'll see, as we watch again Devon following Andrea, following Dino, following Tom. And Devon up the inside, trying to put some pressure on Andrea and trying to get himself up a position, wheel binding, high load section. You don't want to be touching here because you could easily spin the car. Luckily, they've both kept it under control, but Devon rear locking, really struggling to get it through turn 12. And he will have the Mercedes of Baraka joining this train soon as we see Kryptonite only into the pits. None of the other hard drivers
CC Brain into the pit.
CC Brain is on to Stoss, which we were expecting, so he will go out. The other three, like I say, will surely do the same thing, but that'll be probably on the next lap, I imagine, because there'll be no worries about undercuts or anything, as Legend has now retired as well.
In the pits.
And that'll be him sitting back and watching the rest of this. But let's see, where is CC Brain compared to, well, anyone else? Okay, he's a long way back. He's a long way back, so that's a big job for him to make time to get onto all these trains, but if he can do so, there are some rewards in it for him, as Jax, on the pit stop lap potentially, is side by side for the race lead. He's cut the corner though at turn 8. That could cost him as he gets a penalty, and he goes back for the lead, side by side with Bolin. And he's got more ERS in him, so he should be able to get it done. The penalty was arguably unnecessary from him, and it might cost him in the end. But he is into the lead on track at least. The man he won last week gets a decent little tap there from Bolin through 11, but he's kept it all facing in the correct direction. Surely this race will go into the pit lane, and after that we will see how it all pans out. And let's just see, will he pit this lap? These two, they have to. They've seen the Red Bull in, they've got to respond, and they've done so. And I'll tell you what, Kryptonite has seen Valentine and Santry in his mirrors, so he's not going to mind pitting either. And that will finally let Valentine and Santry back into the lead. Can their tyres make it? Will they start to drop off? Are they going to go for sauce? With every lap that goes by, that looks like a less and less likely option. This should be a very interesting end to this race. And you can see Santry is getting this ERS nearly level with Valentine's. And so he's putting himself well into play on 2-lap fresher tyres, remember.
Yes, interestingly that he's been saving as well, but there has been some times in the race a few laps ago where he wasn't really fighting for the lead over Valentine. He was letting Valentine just being kept at bay at the moment, which is probably helping him right now. But watch out for Tom, because Tom is your race lead in terms of hard compound tyre runners, with Dino behind him as well. If the two medium runners start to drop off, Tom will be the one to capitalise after his bad run of form from last week. Andrea, though, he's got Devon behind him. Devon's going to go for a move into turn 8 this time. And this time he definitely makes it work. Devon up into 5th place. He'll be a net P4 because Dino has got a time penalty, whereas Devon does not. Andrea could be a net P5 as well. So these two on for another good result. Andrea could be on for another top 5 finish. We could show consistency in this championship as well. We're seeing a lot of moves through turn 11 and 12, which is something you probably wouldn't expect, but these are nearly the best of the best drivers on the PlayStation platform. They want to be trying to aim for the top tier for next season, and if they keep these battles up, maybe they could get there next season. You never know, as we've got Santry and Valentine about to start lap 21. There they go. So we've got 7 more laps to go of this French Grand Prix, and we still don't know which strategy is the best, and we still don't know who's going to win this race. Jack is the first soft runner, and he's going to try and close in onto the back of Pat. It's about a second quicker than the medium compounded tyres. So can he gain? I don't know what the gap to leader is. Can he gain around about 13 seconds in 7 laps? I don't think that's possible. I think he could get maybe P7. But anything higher than that, it will be a lot difficult for him. But you never know, the people on the mediums could struggle.
Well, we saw that CC Brain, that new fastest lap of the race that he just put in, as we see again, very close and fighting some of them in the midfield. 1.5 seconds faster, CC Brain's last lap compared to Valentine's. That's what these soft runners are working with at the minute. I can't imagine that that sort of gain is going to be every lap. That will surely sort of start to level out at some point. So yeah, we'll keep our eye on that. Santry is now ahead of Valentine in terms of ERS, which is really important stuff because he now has the upper hand in pretty much every aspect in the closing stages as Baraka wheel binding there with Andrea as he tries to get through at 11 and 12. Andrea sideways in the braking zone and just about keeps it on as they wheel bind again through the exit, and Baraka on the mediums is now making his way up and he's into 6th position. Will he be able to get any further up? Andrea does seem like he's climbing all over the back as Santry is not using that ERS advantage. In fact, he wasn't. So he's got through straight through without using the ERS, which could be more of a sign of Valentine thinking, okay, you've done that, now it's my turn to sort of gain some up. But we'll see how it all pans out. I keep saying this, I really don't know what's going to happen as we have a yellow flag. Louis, who's lost his front wing. This can bring safety cars out in the past, but not today by the looks of it, as Azzy has had a collision with Kryptonite and has reset the track. That shouldn't really cause any problems in the race.
Reset the track will probably get a penalty though from Azzy, so because reset the track is not allowed, I think, in this league. But we're seeing, I think, a potential battle near the midfield as well developing. This could be 3 wide with the ghosted car of Eltink, who is not here and he's a lap down. Dino stayed in 4th position. Tom's now up to 3rd. Well, he stayed in 3rd position as well. Baraka's, the ghost car is definitely distracted for him right now, heading towards the turn 10 now. But he's lost a bit of time to Devon actually as well. So Devon doing a great job pulling away from the likes of Baraka, Andrea, Pat as well. I have to say, Pat could be a surprise package as well, because he's only a few seconds behind this train too. So watch out for him. And then we obviously, of course, we've got Jack as well. Jack is catching up like a madman. But of course, we've got to stress, Jack has got a penalty. Jack has got 3 seconds, which is not too bad. It could be worse. Bone has 3 seconds as well, same as Dino. CC Brain has got 8, so I assume CC Brain got 1 for speeding in the pit lane, so because there was no safety cars. Anyway, Bolan gets past Jax actually. Jax not challenging. I wonder if Jax is doing a similar tactic to what we saw with Valentine and just let Bolan use up that ERS, as Bolan is up to 9th. Jax actually on the same amount of ERS, so I'm questioning their decisions a little bit, but this could be a good fight for potentially some good points in this race, because don't forget they have penalties, so this could be a battle for the last points.
Bad news for Valentine is he's had to use a lot of ERS to try and keep up, because Santry, those 2 lap fresher tyres, they seem to be already paying some dividends for him. 5 to go here. I'm not too sure. We always go on about puncture range and will it ever actually happen, but Valentine is having to now push the tyres. And remember, the more overheating that these guys do on these tyres, the more they're going to wear in the coming laps, because they're going to have to drive harder to try and keep it within the track limits. And that is where these older tyres are going to start to struggle through the really long corners, like what we've just been through at turn 11. Sliding on the exit with a squirrely rear end, that's going to heat the tyres up even more. And it's just a relentless set of corners for Valentine to try and desperately keep in range of Santry, who seems to be doing a really decent job here.
Yes, this could get very feisty towards the end as well. Don't forget Valentine. Valentine is the one who's behind in the championship and wants to close the gap as much as he possibly can. Valentine's DNF last week did not help, whereas Santry, he got a podium last week, and pretty much Santry, he scored in all the races except round number 2, where he had an absolute shocker, but at least he finished that race as well. And unfortunately, the rain that we thought was going to come is not here, because it's nice and sunny right now. So I think it's going to stay like that unless Cody's decided to change things ever so slightly. Valentine, not quite close enough. He's trailing his ERS now, whereas Santry, he has a lot more. So I wonder if Santry has realised Valentine's tactics right now, because I think Santry has.
Well, let's say I think it's the tyres as well. It's starting to pay off, because Valentine simply cannot keep up in the corners as well as he was before. And like I say, he must be driving them so hard right now, and I just don't see if it's going to work for him. He might have a chance, but when that chance comes, is he going to have any ERS to fight it with? As Bolan goes side by side through turn 11 and 12 with Pat Schneider, And Pat might just be okay just to sit back and let that happen because of the penalty to Boland Sky. He might be able to help drag him up through the field. So if he can stay in DRS, there could be some good points in it for him. But yeah, I just don't think Valentine has the raw grip anymore to fight this. And it looks like Santry is heading towards his first victory of the season as long as he doesn't make any mistakes. And he'd put himself right into the championship fight. In fact, he would leap ahead of Valentine. I'm not too sure with Baraka. He might still be a couple points behind.
Valentine!
And that penalty will not help. And that sort of proves my point. He's overheating the tyres. They're getting too old. He's having to push harder, drive harder to keep within track limits. The car is simply not turning as well as it was before. And you can see the result of that as he picks up his penalty. And like I say, he's now going to have to sit back and think, I've got to make sure I don't lose second place here. And that's unfortunately where he's going to end up sitting. I think in terms of the championship, I think possibly Santry might leap right up into the lead of the championship with us.
Yes, because Baraka is currently leading at the moment before tonight. Baraka's currently sitting in 6th position, but Baraka could gain in terms of penalties because he had none. So I don't know. It's gonna be between both Santry and Valentine, but I will do the maths whilst we do the interviews, and then we can reveal who is leading the championship after that. But I think the way this is going, I think it could go to Santry due to Valentine's penalty. Look at the way Boland's attacking there. Almost contact with Andrew as well. Andrew's tyres are not in the best conditions. Boland just says thank you very much. Up to 7th place. He is now on this DRS train of Baraka, Devon, Dino and Tom now. So we look at this. Boland on track could get a podium, but again, he also has a time penalty.
These last 2 laps are not going to be comfortable when you're Valentine. You are on the oldest tyres out here. You're losing time. You've got a penalty. He's just got to try and keep this thing on the road now and not lose too many positions. At this rate, Tom is going to be finishing 2nd place, and Devon might be coming up there with him to maybe even leapfrog into 3rd place. So that's sort of what's on the table here. Valentine could lose out. And off the road goes Louis. He's seemingly hit the wall. Obviously, he's down in 15th anyway, so it's not going to matter too much. But yeah, Valentine, nervy couple of moments because this train is coming and he could fall quite far down in it. And it would give Baraka at least 1 position. Baraka possibly would end up looking at finishing, it looks like, 4th place. And that would mean he'd be 1 point ahead still in the championship, because I think he'd be scoring 8 points and he'd obviously lose 8 points to Santry's win, which would mean he'd be on 1 point behind basically. So that's sort of what we're looking at. It'll be so close. 39 against 40 points. I think that's what we'll be looking at. But this is all going to depend on how these last couple of moments in the race go, because we're on our way to the final lap.
Final lap of this race, no safety car. Louis has retired in the pit lane, so he won't be taking any further part of this race. Baraka going side by side. Don't hit each other. No, this is like Hamilton versus Rosberg back in the days. There's sometimes where they haven't ended as well. We're on the final lap of this race, and those two decide to go side by side. Total Wolf might be absolutely flying. Have we got Andrea that's spun a little bit there? He luckily is behind us now and didn't get any damage, but yeah, they're pushing so much. Baraka's on 18-lap-old mediums. Boland's on 7-lap-old soft. I don't think Baraka needs to fight that one, but Baraka wanting to keep his lead in the championship. But we got to keep an eye for the battle for pretty much 2nd place now, because Santry, since Valentine's got the penalty, Santry's just running away with it up in front.
Valentine's tyres still are intact, but it has to be said he's very, very slow. But he's not going to be under threat from the DRS, as we see CC Brian take the fastest lap for sure now, although that means no one's going to obviously score a point for it. Here comes Dino. He nearly went straight over the top, but he has gone ahead of Tom. And look at them, they're both catching Valentine despite the fighting. Devon's in all this as well. If he can get by Tom, 2nd place could be his, but Tom is all over Dino, just getting the slipstream, making sure he doesn't get him under pressure, and he might even have to send it into turn 11. In fact, he will send it down the inside. Do not make contact at this stage. Can Devon find a way through? No. Will Valentine hold these guys up as he struggles through the final sector? This is going to be so tight between all these guys, and I think Tom might have to try and make this move on the road, because if he gets held up, he will potentially get mugged, because look how slow they're going. They're all hitting each other now. As the Santry comes out of the final corner to win this race, he's going to take the checkered flag. Valentine's going to take second on the road. Devin was off the road and fighting to try and get himself ahead of Dino. Who's going to get these podiums? He'll be Tom, Devin, and Baraka ends up in 4th position. Baraka gets 4th. Valentine all the way down in 7th, having had his tyres go off, having had the penalty. That's how much those last couple of laps cost him. And I think that means that Baraka leads this championship by just 1 point to Santry. And of course, it means we have 4 different winners in the first 4 races.
Because if he did miss the first part of the stream, Santry did get a penalty for Monaco, which meant his race win that he originally got was taken away. He drove a lot cleaner today in France, and surely the win won't be taken away here because he absolutely deserved it. Driven a lot better. Devin gets driver of the day as well in game. But there's quite a lot of driver of the days that we feel like have performed well. No crazy weather that we were grown to expect after a few races. In France, and Santry on top, and we've got Tom there who had bad luck last week. He's there for redemption in 2nd place as well, so his championship fight is going off to a much better start. But if he got that win last week, it probably would have been a bit better as well. And then of course we've got Devon as well, so we've got 2 F3 graduates, and then we've got Santry, who was reserved last season, up there at the top of the timing sheet. So this is very great to see.
Yeah, I tell you what, that was quite the thing from Valentine, wasn't it? I can't believe how far he ended up actually falling. And that is going to cost him. It really is, because he had a big chance there today. But, well, there is the race. The order: Santry, Tom, Devin, Baraka, Andrea, Pat, Valentine, Dino, Bolin, and Jax. And then Kryptonite just missed out on picking up a point. Ricky in 12th. Then you have Azzy, CC Brain, Eltink, Louis Legend, Alexis, Kazizel, and Cohen. And, well, that is the French Grand Prix. And, yeah, I'm very interested to see what the drivers will say. I hope they'll be in an interview, but I'll have all my fingers crossed.
Yeah, we were doing well in interviews last week, actually. We thought we weren't going to get any, but we ended up getting 2 interviews from CC Brain and I can't remember who it was. Jack, that was it, because Jack was the race winner. So we interviewed those 2, and it was quite entertaining actually to pretty much interview them as well. So hopefully you'll get someone. Hopefully we'll get Tom as well, because Tom definitely needed that result after a bad race last week as well. At least he finished this one as well. But the midfield battle, with all of them scrapping, just made a difference to Valentine's race. And due to the fact that Valentine's tyres started to drop off more than the likes of Baraka did, and the likes of Santry as well. I think Santry was on the hards, I can't remember. That was his downfall, was his time management. It was perfect at the start, but not as perfect at the end, and that was why he fell so further down the grid, and he got a penalty, which is quite common in F2. He got a lot of penalties last season as well, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he had it mostly right, and it just unfortunately fell apart at the end. I suppose that's a good case study for how the undercut can work, but can also heavily disadvantage you by the end. And I suppose that's something that he'll learn. He'll have learnt a lot today from that, and maybe that'll help him in his championship fight for the rest of the season.
Yeah, because he's still in his championship fight, and I can confirm after putting the results in the standings, I haven't sorted it out properly yet, but it is 1 point difference, which I have to say is absolutely crazy, between Santry and Baraka, with Baraka leading there. So without Valentine's penalty, Santry would have been leading the championship, but due to Valentine's penalty, Baraka is leading the championship. So it could go either way at the moment. I do believe we've got 4 different pole sitters as well. Actually, no, this is the first race where we had a second person who got 2 pole sitters, and then we've got 4 different race winners. We don't know if we're going to have a 5th. We're not entirely sure. But next week, we're not going to be racing next week. We've got a break week, but I'm trying to remember where we are next week. I think we are at, it's Zandvoort. I can't remember. I need to get my calendar up, actually, in order to do that. Let me check. No, we're not at Zandvoort. We're at Hungary. The flags look very, very weird for the time being. But Hungary, we go to a place where there's been a lot of overtakes, to a place where you can't even overtake, really. Again, you need another good qualifying session. It's Monaco without the barriers, isn't it? Or the walls.
Pretty much, yes. It's a race that tends to be quite good in the F1 games, so I'm looking forward to going to that one as well.
Yeah, it should be really fun, I have to say. I think the last time we visited was either season 26 or season 27. Not entirely sure, but we do have someone in the interview booth, and that is our second place man, Tom. Tom, can you hear us? And Tom, if you're trying to speak, you're on mute. Tom, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello, Tom. A bad race from you last week, but a much better race from you this week. A second place for you due to people getting penalties. Was that redemption for you, do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, he's gone. That was odd. That's the first time
we know some drivers are known for their one-word answers.
You're like, well, right, it was somehow you left the Discord for the time being, and yeah, I'll repeat the question again. Is this redemption for you after a bad race last week, Tom? I think Tom's Discord is playing up a minute, as Tom is gonna, it might be his mic. Tom, can you... I have a feeling he's on his phone, and usually the phone Discord could play out quite a bit. It's done that with mine as well. I'll drag him a few more times, actually. By the time we're doing this, hopefully more people will come in and we can speak to them whilst we try and get Tom in. Tom, can you hear us?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us, Tom?
Yeah, hello.
Hopefully you're staying in the lobby this time, in our voice chat. We'll repeat the question again because you probably missed it. Congratulations on your P2. Were you expecting that after a bad race last week?
Well, I wasn't expecting it because last week I felt might have been a bit of a one-off with the Monaco being all about the quali. But yeah, I think it was a pretty good result. I'm happy with it after a pretty horrendous start to the season, so yeah.
Yeah, because you only got points, I believe, in Silverstone, and you were so close to getting point in your first race in Portugal as well. Talk us through that battle you had with the likes of Dino, Devon and Baraka, and for the final few laps, Valentin. Was it so hard to try and fend off these guys behind you?
Well, Dino was being very clever about it. He was just sitting behind me, so I didn't really have to do anything. He was sort of... wasn't battling me so that like the alternate strat runners could catch up. So I didn't really have to do anything there. And then in the last laps, I knew he was going to attack. But yeah, I had a lot of battery left. But yeah, honestly, Valentin, he was going so slow. It nearly allowed him up the inside at the last corner, but it worked out, so...
Yeah, we did as well, and some good points for Aston Martin as well. And obviously no safety cars, which kind of helped you a little bit. When you saw the likes of Santry and Valentin go for the mediums, do you think you made the right call to go onto the hards in the end, or did you regret at one point that you made the wrong decision?
Yeah, I do kind of regret not staying out with Santeri and pitting for mediums, but I wasn't sure if that would work and the mediums would last till the end, which is did. I knew Valentin's wouldn't. I knew he was gonna like drop off at the end, which he did. But yeah, I probably should have stayed out there one more lap, maybe challenge Santeri, but then again, probably not.
Yes, indeed. Congratulations to you. Owen, do you have any questions for our second place driver, Tom?
Indeed. First of all, congratulations, of course, on the very good result. And that result sort of backs up the pace that you had in Monaco, which obviously didn't quite work out to plan. But now that you've got the podium on the board and you're pushing forward, you've got the week break as well to prepare. Do you think you can push yourself onto this championship fight?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure because Valentin and Santeri have like alien pace in qualifying. I can pull together like a half decent lap. But yeah, they just got alien pace that I can't really compete with at the minute. But I sort of try and get good results on like strategy and using my ARS well, and hopefully I can try get a few wins. I don't think I'll be in the championship fight after like 3 horrendous results, but maybe.
Just one more thing, obviously, being in Hungary next time out, it is a similar sort of track to Monaco. Do you think you work better on tracks like that?
I was pretty good at Monaco. I don't know why, but Hungary, I've never really done Hungary like for longer than a race. I've never really practiced, so it's gonna be like I've actually got a week off this week that I'm actually just gonna do Hungary quite a lot. So hopefully I might have some pace, but it's a week break, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a week break, so you got extra time to get your Hungry craft.
Yeah.
So I think that is all the questions that we have for you. We'll let you go and celebrate your podium with the champagne. Congratulations, Tom, your first podium of the season. Well done.
Thank you.
Right, I don't think we have any. I need to actually see if we have anyone in the box, because last time I said we didn't, but then someone jumped in at the last minute. But no, we don't have anyone in the box anymore. So it was just Tom. So we're not going to hear from our race winner Santry. We're not going to hear from our third place man Devon, but who knows, we may do it in just under 2 weeks time, where we'll be back same time at 7 p.m. UK time for the Hungarian Grand Prix. We're not here next week, so don't expect to have a stream, because we won't be here. We'll be just chilling, having our own break, because us commentators need break too. Owen, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Just, again, another good race. It was good to see a fourth different winner. Good to see Santry sort of get another clean race in, because obviously he's had two where it didn't quite go to plan in Silverstone and in Monaco. But yeah, certainly now it looks like we've got at least 3 championship contenders. So that's definitely worth coming back for after the break.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. Make sure you tune in for F1, which are just on the end of their qualifying session, about to start their race as well. And of course, we've got F5, F6 and F8 on as well, so make sure you stay tuned in for that. And we had F3 and F4 on just now, which you can watch after all the other streams too. So thank you very much for listening. Myself and Owen will just see you in just under 2 weeks time for the Hungarian Grand Prix, and enjoy our break week. Goodbye.